universal laws. You attract what you think about most of the time. Death, or croaking, isn't what you think.
Well, we know it's hard to hear, and we're going to explain it from broad perspective. The first thing that we so want you to remember is that what you call death, that you all dread so, is not like you think it is. In other words, it's just re-emerging into the fullness of that which you are. And in the same way that a woman suffering from the negativity of her own life, and therefore causing the breakdown of her own body, finds Alzheimer's as the bridge into the pure positive energy. There are many populations who find catastrophes that are hard to understand from the outside point of view as a bridge into pure positive energy. If you start with the premise that is the valid premise that we know, that you are joy-seeking beings who are coming forth for the joy of life, and you come from source, from a vantage point of understanding not just that joy is your quest, but that joy is your legacy, that it is your inherited right. Is it not inconceivable that you could be set up for tragedy and for trauma and for the horrors of death? In other words, you just have to, with all of this, begin to wrap your minds around another way of understanding what you call life and death, that we are calling life and more life and more life. We said a little bit ago that when you look at the broad view of who you are, this experience that you call my whole life in this body is such a short snap of an experience that from the broader point of view, there is a humorous, adoring respect for the way you see your lives with all of its trauma and drama that is just not understood or experienced from non-physical perspective. It would be like you walking into a movie that someone had told you was going to be really good, and in the first scene you say, this is the most horrible thing I've ever seen, and just getting up and walking out. And the others in the theater then having a funeral for you. And being horrified that you didn't hang in there with them and see the movie to the end, when you said, this isn't the kind of movie I wanted to see, and I've had enough of this, off I go. So the first premise that is flawed is the idea that death is a bad thing. So we understand, we hear it often. People say, if I create my own reality, then how do you explain a large number of people creating such a horrific or even a common reality? And we say, well, when you think about how it is that most people offer almost all of their vibration in response to what they are observing, it makes you understand that it's not an unusual thing for a population to have a similar vibrational offering, because most of them are not thinking purposefully. Most of them are observing and therefore having a knee-jerk response to what they are observing. Then law of attraction exaggerates that, because you think a thought which causes you to feel a way, and it also causes you to set up a point of attraction which causes you to experience something which then you observe, which causes you to offer a vibration, which you then observe, which causes you to offer a vibration. And so there are these patterns. You see it as you travel around the world. You see different segments of your world vibrating similarly, you see. And so it is not surprising that people in areas would offer similar enough vibrations that they would co-create an event. But then we want you to step back even further and realize, we said it just a little bit ago, and let's exaggerate it here again, that there are 3 steps to the creative process, and whether you know it or not, whether you become a deliberate creator, one who is deliberately offering thought and therefore deliberately adjusting your vibration for the deliberate point of receiving something, or whether you are like so many people, in fact most people, who are offering your vibration by default. In other words, you're just observing and your vibrations are flowing all over the place. As you are offering your vibration, and law of attraction is responding to your vibration, your resulting life experience is coming in response to what you're offering vibrationally. You just cannot get around it. As you think, you vibrate. As you vibrate, you attract. As you attract, you receive. So, whether you know it or not, you are sifting through this contrast, and in those experiences that you or almost anybody would call a not wanted experience, a very remarkable thing is happening. In that not wanting experience, there is a powerful launching of what is wanted. And so, huge segments of your population are putting great desire over here in vibrational escrow, but the confines of their environment seemingly prevents them from going with the flow of what they are asking for. And so, while someone like you could easily experience contrast and you feel more free to turn your attention to what you want and line up with it, some, in fact many, cannot do that. And the fastest way for them to achieve alignment with what this life has caused them to ask for is by re-emerging into non-physical. So, large segments of your population are putting forth wonderful things into a vibrational escrow that future generations, even the generations that remain beyond them in your now time, space, reality, will benefit from, you see. And so, from that broader vantage point, there is no sacrifice. Now, I want to be clear about something. 3 parts to the creative process. Step 1 says ask. Well, are they ever doing that? Sometimes people will say, in appreciation of Jerry and Esther and Abraham, thank you for coming forth to answer. And we always say, these answers could not be here if someone were not asking. Expansion cannot take place without asking. And so, do not underestimate the power of the asking, the power of the asking. And do you know that there are so many who are coming forth from non-physical that understand the power of the answering, that never were not hung up on the idea of asking and aligning and allowing and receiving. They came forth to ask in very powerful ways, knowing that they would contribute mightily to what is being answered. And so, if you can step back and get that point of view, that source point of view, then you become one who is at ease with experiences. Some say, but what about the suffering? And we say, you cannot assume that there is suffering. Esther said, as she shuddered and watched, that would be a horrible experience. And once she recovered and gave her attention to something else so that she came back into alignment, we said to her, there is so much less suffering than you think. There is so much less suffering in an experience like that. There is a quick and reemergence. And even those that are being pulled from the rubble were in places where their desire to remain, they were the exception to that. And they found a place of allowing and received their alignment. In other words, whether you croak to receive your closing of your gap or whether you remain in physical and figure out to close it, in either case, the closing of the gap is something to be celebrated, you see. And so, we know that humans often would like us to join them in their beating the drum of the horrors of death, but we cannot do that because we understand the value of their perspective and the value of their step 1 asking, and we understand the exhilaration of their reemergence back into non-physical. Someone like Esther or someone like you who has found a way to come into vibrational alignment with who you really are on a regular basis, when you have your death experience, croaking experience, you will not experience the rush of alignment all at once because you have achieved it on a really steady, regular basis. But imagine the thrill of in one fell swoop letting go of all fear and injustice and resentment, all discord, all hatred, all despair, and coming into alignment with who you are. You've just got to get over this death thing.
You create your world by your thoughts. Universal laws can help you to achieve. The law of attraction is one of many. You are more powerful than you know. Believe.